Hello, everyone. Do you want to get seated, those who are not yet? I don't know if you're in the right session because we are like half an hour late. So just make sure you're in the right place. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us at this late time during the event. Maybe up front, English is not our native language, so bear with us if there's a level of shakiness in our presentations. We're Spanish speakers, we're German speakers, we're French speakers, but we're not English speakers, but it happens to be our common denominator. Our session is United Towards 2030, so that means that we will be talking about collaboration, new ways of collaboration, and we will be talking about the unifying power of football. As common goal, previously Street Football World, we have been working together with a series of football mega events in the past since 2006. We have been legacy partners of FIFA and UEFA in their competitions. The one thing we have experienced is that in none of the cases we have been involved, we were able to maximize impact given the limitations of isolated action. That's very much due to the nature of the mega events, but in part also due to what we are used to when we talk about collaboration. Maybe the prime example, maybe in terms of where we achieved the most, actually happened on this continent around the World Cup 2010 in South Africa, when we were able to develop 15 community centers across 15 different African countries that are still working today. But again, this is far from leveraging the power of football and the power of mega events. On the other side, just as another ingredient to take into consideration, is that the current polarized nature of our world. We are very much about left and right, wrong and right, black and white, and we are very much lacking a place where we can feel a shared belonging, and this is where actually football comes into place. We very much believe that football can be this enabling tool because it speaks to us every day, it speaks to us in the most intimate way, it has this shared passion we're putting into it, it deserves our time, actually, and our energy we're offering to it, and it is, at the end of the day, this universal language where we have no other that would compare to it. Now, today we're 4 of us, and just briefly, from which angle our panelists will be talking to you. There is Jose Maria Arrabal. He has a background very much in public and private, but also in sports. Today he will be representing the corporate sector and talking about like how could social engagement with a long-term perspective look like, and what's the role actually of a corporate partner on the field if we're talking about team play. We have Amine on his side. He is a founder and director of TIBU Africa. He has been, or he will be talking about the local impact and how that can be scaled thanks to collaboration. We have Anna on his side, Anna Arizabaleta. She is representing an approach of how we can leverage the power of networks, again, network of networks in the Latin American region. And then we have Íñigo on her side, and he will be talking about the role athletes can play in all of it, and athlete and coach engagement in what we call the collective action or the radical collaboration. So we will have representation of 4 different sectors. We have representation of 3 continents that are all involved in the 2030 World Cup. So maybe we start local, Amine. And let's try not to go over time as our previous panels did. So let's stick maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes or so with your initial statement, and then at the end of the panel, we would love to give also time to you in the audience. Maybe you can start talking about your experience of very direct, face-to-face, local impact with concrete children, with concrete young people, not only in Morocco, but also across Africa, on the level of early childhood development in terms of primary education, but also entrepreneurship, entering like economic participation. So please, Amine, go first.
Thank you so much, Jurgen, and thank you for inviting me to the World Football Summit in Rabat. Of course, concrete solution, I think it can be taken only by social entrepreneurs and sports social entrepreneurs. In Morocco, for example, there is more than 4.5 million kids that don't have access to sports in primary public schools. I think in the same thing in other countries in Africa, like Senegal, Tunisia, Ivory Coast, etc. Let me talk about a concrete solution. It's about talking to or mobilizing all the stakeholders, ministry, UN agencies, private sector, local associations, but also researchers and entrepreneurs around education through sports. And we bring the opportunity for schools to have a program focused on health, education, sports, and we give the opportunity also for youth aged between 16 and 25 to be trained and to be employed in this program. For example, in Morocco, as a TIBU Africa, we did this on more than 300 schools, and we offered the opportunity for 150,000 kids to be in the game, to be in the field, and to grow, to learn through the power of sports each week in the school for free. It means that we give the opportunity also for 3,000 youth to have a job as a coach, but also it's something that they give the opportunity for the kids to increase their marks at the school and to have a good, relation with the school. And the cost is only $12 a year, $1 a month. And we just...
Per child.
Per child, yeah. We just organized the Education Through Sports Summit in Africa, and we had the Minister of National Education, Preschool and Sports. And he committed that we need to mobilize and to, generalize this program for each kid by 2030 for 4.5 million kids. And it means that we can create more than 10,000 jobs for youth.
So this is a very, very interesting example of how the power of system and the agility of a non-governmental organization with a purpose to achieve one concrete goal together can go hand in hand and in a very short period of time achieve results that none by their own could achieve, right? So thanks very much for that, Amine, and really chapeau for what you're achieving here in Morocco and actually across Africa. So thanks very much. Anna, you have been working your whole life on weaving networks, weaving relationships or network of networks. What have you identified in the region, here is Latin America, as the main success factors or also the main failures when it comes to collaboration?
Yeah, I was always thinking about the successes and how to bring these three key things that I believe are the things that make real lasting change happen. But we were recently discussing there's so many things that we are probably doing wrong in the development sector, and that's probably why we can't advance at the pace that is needed. And we see organizations having to struggle to survive and just compete with each other for resources and investing all this time in finding resources to do what they have to do. So they lose 80% of their time just trying to survive instead of having the real impact in the ground. We have corporates having organizations compete for limited resources. We have governments not putting in their public policies, as TIBU has mentioned, the need of sports to be part of the school system. So there's all these stakeholders, all of us not playing our best role. And I'll just probably jump into saying there's 3 things that I think are key for really achieving long-lasting change. One is finding within the organizations those believers in collaboration, because it's not organizations that collaborate, it's individuals. So finding within the organizations, within the corporates, within the government, those who are ready to build network and to believe in common goals. So I think individuals believing in collective action are key. I also believe playing our best role. I've said it before, we are moving in places that we shouldn't be moving just to be able to survive or to take the picture or to create like short-term results. But if we really play our role to our best, we probably can build better teams and have better success. I'll probably just leave it there. I think those are key factors for really achieving long-lasting change.
Thanks very much, Anna. And I think what comes to mind, at least to me, is like the analogy to football. Like you wouldn't want to have like 11 players who have the same skills on a team. You would want to have complementary skills, and that makes the team. And the team actually understanding that everybody in his or her position needs to train very hard to be the very best on that position. At the same time, understand the collective game plan, so that you know, like if you pass the ball, everything moves in the right way, so that the whole continues to function. And I think this analogy also to understand really like the level of collaboration we're talking about here is very important, very helpful. Jose Maria, you have your experience in the public sector, in the sports industry, in the private sector. Now you're talking to us from that perspective of the private sector. There is like limitations by nature to how a private or a corporation, a brand, normally looks at contributing, because there is an expectation of return. So a lot of focus on where is my logo, where is my exclusivity, etc. How do you envision that from, maybe talk from Acciona, like how do you see it work, and where do you see space for improvement also from a corporate sector contributing to something that is bigger than themselves?
Dear Jurgen, many thanks for your warm welcome. Salam alaikum. Allow me to express my gratitude for this flattering opportunity to become again part of a World Football Summit family. Also, hats off to the different causes present here: Common Goal, Catalizar, TIBU Africa. You guys are doing an amazing job. Congratulations, Mabruk. Well, I feel blessed to have the opportunity to work for a company that has interiorized so much the importance, on its DNA of sustainability, long-term thinking, leading by example. I would say that's one of the probably the key attributes of a company like Acciona. When it comes to becoming a relevant player in an industry, in this case when we talk about football, when we talk about development, when we talk about education, when we talk about big events, Acciona, particularly Acciona Cultura, is a company that thinks always on the legacy, on sustainability after the events, and with great examples such as, for example, the Olympic and Sports Museum in Qatar, at Khalifa Stadium, where World Cup was played, one of the 8 stadiums in Qatar where World Cup was played. I would say that, doing that type of content, being able to land that vision, and making sure the day after the event, the legacy is there, and doing it by spreading the word of the values of sport is extremely important. It's actually, an approach that I think that the private sector can actually, flagship, and that's something that is very natural. In this case, for a company like Acciona, that again has so enclosed on its DNA this ambition to be, sustainable, not only from a let's say philanthropy perspective, but also from a competitive advantage positioning. I would say that's probably one of the attributes that defines this company, and that might be humbly a good way to lead by example to other companies in the private sector. By the way, I believe this is a teamwork, and for private companies legitimately, running their business, but doing it, leaving this legacy, being able to promote these values. Another project Acciona Cultura recently landed was Real Madrid Museum and Experience, explaining to kids the values of a club of such an importance. It's a blessing, and we really look forward to be part of this family for many years to come. In countries like Morocco, so exciting with so many interesting projects in the pipeline. Mabruk for that. I'm sure you guys are going to do great in the World Cup. And, it's really, flattering for us to be part of this and hopefully be part in the future.
Thanks very much, Jose Maria. I think what comes to mind is there's, again, what is our shared game plan? If we take it really to the humanity level, we had a shared game plan with the Sustainable Development Goals, and we're failing with it. So what is it? What is missing? Or a Paris Agreement, or whatever. Wherever there is a collective agreement, a collective pledge, as humanity, we have never managed to meet our goals collectively. So there's something missing. Where we again believe that there is a place, and maybe there is no other to occupy that place than football, in order to unify. And 2030 is a very significant year. It will be the time when everybody will be aware that the SDGs didn't work out. And it is 100 years of World Cup. So do we want to celebrate a World Cup that is just yet another World Cup? Or do we want to mark a before and after with a World Cup? So I think that is a question we as humanity have, and we as responsibles within and holders of power within football, we should ask ourselves. Before we go to Íñigo, who is not the moderator, I'm Jurgen, and I'm the moderator, and Íñigo is actually contributing to this panel. So Íñigo, please, you have been working with the most renowned footballers, coaches. Talk about what you see as their role on the field in a team play as we talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Jurgen, and also thank you so much to World Football Summit for giving me the opportunity to share the stage with some fellow colleagues that I really admire and respect. Maybe to give a little bit of context of the work that we do with athletes for the audience, we collaborate and we work with more than 200 football players, professional football players that are working with us to support organizations like TIBU, for example. Just to put some names of the likes of Dani Olmo, Jurgen Klopp, Paulo Dybala, Irene Paredes, Naomi Girma, Jennifer Hermoso. And if you think about these athletes, they have a unique capacity to drive social change. And if you break down what is this capacity, right? How can you measure transforming capacity. First one is they have a strong capacity to unlock fundraising and funding to create change. For example, just to give an example, over the last 6-7 years, we've been able to unlock over 5 million euros that have been invested into social impact through football. Then they have a unique capacity to be listened and to influence, right? What footballers say is heard by millions and millions of people in the planet. A very clear example is what happened with Marcus Rashford and how he, through his own voice, he was able to transform governmental policy in the UK that basically enable millions of kids to have access to food, right? And then maybe the last and the third area in which I see the athletes having like a unique capacity to transform and to accelerate change is the network capacity. I mean, footballers, they can open any doors, right? So how can they really put this influence at the service of a greater good? And one good example of that could be, for example, Juan Mata. He's our co-founder of Common Goal. He's an Adidas athlete, and through his influence, through his own network, he facilitated a conversation between Common Goal and Adidas, and now we are working with them, helping them to basically articulate through the work of these organizations their whole purpose-driven strategy and the whole social inclusion and environmental and gender equity strategy, right? If you really take a second to reflect on that, it's quite crazy, right? The amount of impact that these individuals are creating and having just by wanting to, right? And then coming back to your initial question, what if all these athletes can put all these super wealthy influence at the service of this legacy that this World Cup can have, right? And at the service of these different, roles that each stakeholder is going to have in order to maximize the impact of 2030 in this region.
Yeah, thanks very much, Íñigo, and it has been very rich to listen to all of you. And if we put it all together, and I'm trying to wrap it up in two dimensions. One is our experience, and we're in this now for 30 years. We're like working on it for quite a while, and we're coming to the conclusion that we need to change something in our behavior in order to get it right, because we haven't gotten it right. Collaboration is something that we limit to its transactional character. So win-win. You give me and I give you. Full stop. But we haven't gotten to a point collectively where we see ourselves with our strengths in our position being reliant on our teammates in order to score a goal, and not just score a goal, but to win the game, and not just to win the game, but to win the championships. Like, it's that what we haven't cracked yet. And we believe very much that there is, I'm often saying that collaboration in that sense might be the innovation of our century. It's not a technology, because also that technology must be in service of something, of our shared purpose. And if we put ourselves a shared goal, as I mentioned before with the SDGs or the MDGs that were preceding the SDGs, we haven't, as humanity, we haven't cracked the code. We don't know how to collaborate beyond our own interest to a degree. Me being an individual, me being an organization, me being a corporation, me being a politician, me being whoever I am as me. We haven't yet understood how that works. So this is just a declaration, and our commitment, if we say united towards 2030, is to crack that code. To how do we perform at our best as a collective? And on the other side, just to say, we are here just 5 people. But this is a representation of 20,000 that we are working on this in over 100 countries. And it's 20,000, including athletes, including coaches, including those working at community organizations, those leaders in corporations, those leaders in politics who have the willingness to move in that direction. So it's just us sitting here talking to not many people, but at the core of it, this is happening, and it will be happening at some point. Our belief that 2030 is a major opportunity. I don't know if some of you have something to add on where you feel like burning, I need to say this, or also the audience to just engage with the conversation we have had so far. Please feel free.
Sure thing, if I may. I totally agree with you. 2030, particularly the World Cup, should be a milestone. You know, it should mark a kind of a threshold in the way we approach things, the way we approach an industry that is growing, is emerging, and not only from a size perspective, but also from an approach and a focus perspective. Like we said earlier, if we're able to share a common denominator, public entities, athletes, federations, private sector, on the influence we may have, leading by example on our, different roles. I mean, we can really change the world. I mean, if you think about it, this World Cup 2030 is going to be hosted by 3 countries whose critical mass of, speaking people, taking into consideration their respective languages, is going to pass over 1.2 billion people. I mean, if you add up, 360 million people speaking Arab in the world, plus 250 speaking Portuguese, plus 600, 700 speaking Spanish, hosting the World Cup, I mean, that, should definitely go beyond, let's say, what we know as the sports industry. It should go and get and achieve a position where, we really spread the word of, how things can be done better, how sports can educate people, other than inspiring, other than passionating people. We should really be able to spread the word of different values on how we do things, how we treat athletes, how we educate them, the example they become for our societies. And definitely, companies like the one I'm honored to represent here, to be able to give an example on their activity on a day by day of thinking on the future, being sustainable, and become a force of good in our society.
Yeah, thanks very much. Maybe you start thinking about one sentence where you can point out what is holding us back from your perspective on doing what we're talking about here, right? Is there somebody in the audience who wants to contribute or to ask a question? Please.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. My name is Obasanjo, and I'm from Nigeria. Thank you for this wonderful session. I've learned a lot, seeing the role of non-profits, especially in promoting us towards the 2030 goal. My question goes towards everyone, TIBU Africa, Acciona, Catalyze, and Common Goal. What is our role, your roles basically in ending gender discrimination in football, particularly in Africa? Why I'm asking this is because, particularly for myself, I run a girls-focused project where we use football to increase retention rates, attendance, and self-esteem of girls in public schools in Nigeria. However, we have noticed that a lot of time we don't get that much number of support we need because we are running a grassroots project. And a lot of time we find it hard to put ourselves in front of the right audience. And having this opportunity, I just want to learn, especially from everyone here, how you have your work in ending gender discrimination in football for girls.
Thank you. I see maybe Anna and Amine in the best position to talk to that. Anna from more the collective perspective, and
Moving around is not that great idea.
and Amine maybe from more the African perspective.
Yeah, well, just and also because I wanted to speak about this in the first intervention and I didn't, is and you were saying, Íñigo, what if players each really played their role? What if organizations also each played their role? And there's this experience in Latin America in getting together around gender equity, and there's so many solutions already out there. There's so many organizations as TIBU in Morocco, but also all these other experiences around the world that Common Goal has been surfacing for the past 30 years. There's already a lot of formula on how to make this happen. What I think is holding us back is that we are not working together. So there's all these curricula out there, there's all this like training of trainers opportunities, there's all this knowledge and all this intelligence on how to use football as a tool to strengthen organizations so they can promote gender equity, but we don't collaborate. We have been working in Latin America in the past 4 years in having 20 organizations get around gender equity and working together to solve this as a collective issue. So understanding what are the barriers holding girls to play the sport they love, what are the barriers for coaches to become female coaches within the organizations. So just funding solutions together and working as a collective to solve them has been very effective. And I think I also answered the last question, what is holding us back? I think we need to have common goals. So if we want to go for gender equity, we put that as our common shared goal, and we know that we all are going to work towards that, and just playing a role. Again, like really finding what is our role in the field and sticking to it and being sure that we are not, we don't lose focus because we need to survive or we need to compete or we need to whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Anna, maybe for me, I will share with you an opportunity because we are believing that the future is collective. And there is an opportunity called 63 African Sport Changemaker program developed by TIBU. And we are working with youth around 63 from 54 countries in Africa. And through program focused on social entrepreneurship and also mentorship, and we offer them capacity building workshops and learning expedition in Morocco. It can be maybe an opportunity for you to learn from other experiences in Lesotho, Namibia, Ivory Coast, and of course Morocco. Our experience related to using football as a way to, unlock the potential of girls. We are working with a main partner in Morocco to launch football centers for girls who are in middle school, because most of the girls in middle school, they don't do PE classes because different issues related to the mindset, related also to access of sports, etc. And we can share with you this experience. We have now more than 15 centers, and most of the girls now, they have great marks in the school, but also they are competing in the not high level but good level with some clubs in their communities and in their cities. So yeah, of course I will be more than happy to connect with you, because we are looking for good change makers who wanna use sports as a way to unlock the potential of girls.
Thanks very much. Just a quick one to round up. I think here is to see both sides. Like what we're hearing here is the opportunity, but also the limitation in terms of how can we better leverage the knowledge we already have, redistribute, disseminate it in a way that it really, in your case, I'm sure there's a lot of answers already out there. And then the other part is how can we take a bet on collective action at the end of the day. I think that speaks then to governments, it speaks to private sector. How can you not try to find your pet project out there that you can attribute to yourself as a corporation or as a government, but how can you really put your focus on how can I, if I'm willing to invest in the most promising collective effort that maximizes the impact at the end of the day, which should be our collective interest. So I think there is learnings from both sides, right? Here's another question.
Well, assalamu alaikum. Hatim bin Siddiq, PhD student in sports science. And also I have been part of TIBU Africa programs. I have been part for like 3-4 years ago. Well, my question is for José María Arrabal, como es un representante de Acciona. Well, what role plays Acciona in the industry of sport? As we know, the Acciona is a global group that develops and manage infrastructure solutions. So I just wanted to know the main role of Acciona in the industry of sport. Thank you.
Actually, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Acciona is a well-known industrial home company. 80,000 plus employees, 20 billion euros turnover in 2024, with different verticals, different divisions: construction, infrastructure, energy, mobility, culture. Along the years, throughout the course of the last decades, Acciona has learned by executing sharply, I would say, projects in sport, from building stadiums to building arenas to designing museums. I mentioned earlier Real Madrid Museum and Experience or Qatar Olympic and Sports Museum. But Acciona has also been able to roll out events for UEFA, for FIFA. So different experiences. So, it's a no-brainer. Sports has got a tremendous potential as a driver. And Acciona has been, in this case Acciona Cultura, has been brave enough to step forward by basically launching a new division, sports entertainment, understanding the strength, the potential of sports as a driver, as we're saying. And number one, by replicating and escalating those success stories worldwide. This company is present in over 80 countries right now. So number one objective is to be able to replicate and escalate those experiences I just mentioned, all over the world, right? But with a very important criteria. We would love to be iconic, and we would love to do it coherently with the values of this company: sustainability, long-lasting, respect to the environment, leading by example. And that hopefully is going to constitute itself a flagship in order to be able to hopefully, inshallah, develop a longer catalog of solutions, which I'm sure the sports industry has got the potential to assimilate, and at the same time, why not inspire all the companies? We're talking about it when we talked about exclusivity or competition, which is something healthy, but at the same time, we owe each other the responsibility to lead by example. And hopefully this initiative from this incredible company could inspire others, because nothing moves the heart of people anywhere in the world as sports, and then nothing leaves a legacy behind as sports. When we talk, for instance, and you know, I'm finishing. When we talk about clean energies, it's hard for me to think on a cleaner energy than sports. In many ways, because you know, it cares about the bodies, the heart, and the soul of our society. A society that looks throughout the eyes of an athlete is a better society. And a company that looks throughout the eyes of sport is a better company. So that's you know, our take on that one. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, and I think we now need to wrap up. So if not, we pack the same. We go into the same sin as our panels before. Is there anything like limitation, one word, or you have shared what you needed to share with the audience?
I would only want to convey one message, which is that 2030 is around the corner, but the action starts now, that we are already united and that we are ready to collaborate with whoever wants to be part of this shared dream.
Wonderful. I think that's good closing words. Thanks very much to the panelists, and thanks very much for hanging in.